The fist connected with Lucky's jaw before the handshake finished. October 22nd, 1934. Napoli's restaurant, Little Italy. 8:16 p.m. 1 second Lucky Luciano was extending his hand to seal a partnership agreement with Johnny Torrio's nephew. The next second, 230 pounds of rage and muscle had knocked him backward into the table. Sal, the hammer Benedetto, Johnny Torrio's enforcer, 6'2", former dockworker who'd killed 2 men with his bare hands during a union dispute. Fists like iron, reputation for settling arguments before they started, and he'd just sucker-punched Lucky Luciano in front of 30 witnesses. "You think you can disrespect my boss?" Sal said. His voice was South Philly, hard, final. "Johnny Torrio built this business. You show some goddamn respect." Lucky's head was ringing, blood on his lip. Sal's knuckles were inches from his face, close enough to smell oil and sweat. Frank Costello was on his feet instantly, chair knocked backward. Vito Genovese had already pulled his weapon, aimed at Sal's chest. Across the room, Torrio's 4 men had surrounded them, hands inside jackets, ready to escalate. The entire restaurant went silent. Waiters froze mid-service. Diners stopped eating. Even the kitchen noise stopped. Lucky raised his right hand, slowly, palm out. "Wait." Frank hesitated. Vito's gun stayed aimed, but he didn't fire. Lucky looked at Sal Benedetto, looked directly into eyes that had watched men fall and not get up. Eyes that expected submission. "Back up," Lucky said. His voice was steady, completely steady, like he was ordering wine. Sal's fist tightened. "Not until you apologize to Mr. Torrio." "Sal," Lucky said quietly, "you've got 10 seconds to step back. Then something happens that ruins everyone's dinner." "Yeah? What's that?" "Your boss loses his best enforcer, and I lose a clean shirt." Johnny Torrio spoke for the first time. Chicago accent. Measured. Controlled. "Sal, step back." "Boss," I said, "step back." Sal's fist lowered. Not quickly. Deliberately. Making it clear he was following Torrio's orders, not obeying Lucky's request. Lucky wiped blood from his lip, sat back down. His face showed nothing. No anger. No embarrassment. No pain. He looked at Johnny Torrio. "We finished?" Torrio studied him for a long moment. "We're finished." "Good." Lucky stood. Frank and Vito flanked him immediately. "Next time you want to negotiate, Johnny, teach your dog not to bite before the deal's done." They walked out of Napoli's restaurant, out through a room full of witnesses who'd just watched Lucky Luciano get punched and walk away calm. Lucky didn't look back, didn't rush, just walked like the blood on his collar meant nothing, but it meant everything, and everyone in that room knew there would be consequences. To understand what happened next, you need to understand what Sal Benedetto had just done. In their world, putting hands on another boss during a negotiation, especially a peaceful one, was a declaration. It said, "You're beneath me. You're not worthy of civility. You can be struck like a disobedient soldier." Sal Benedetto had just told every person in that restaurant that Lucky Luciano could be humiliated, disrespected, treated like muscle instead of the man building the modern mob. And Lucky had let it happen, hadn't fought back, hadn't ordered Sal shot, had walked away with blood on his face. To some people that looked like weakness. Lucky knew better. Responding in the moment, shooting Sal, starting a war with Johnny Torrio's organization would have been satisfying, brief, destructive. What Lucky planned to do was something else entirely. Frank Costello waited until they were in the car before he spoke. "Charlie, that was calculated." Lucky interrupted. "That was calculated. Sal Benedetto punched you in front of 30 people." "I know, and we walked away." "We walked away," Lucky confirmed. He dabbed at his bloody lip with a handkerchief. "For now." Vito Genovese leaned forward from the back seat. "So what are we doing?" Lucky was quiet for a long moment. "We're teaching a lesson," he said finally. "Not to Johnny, to Sal, because Johnny didn't punch me, Sal did. And Sal needs to understand that some men you can hit, and some men you can't." "When?" Frank asked. 72 hours. I want him to think Johnny protected him. I want him relaxed, confident. Then we move." Sal, the hammer, Benedetto went home that night thinking he'd won, had punched Lucky Luciano, made him bleed, made him walk away. The story spread through South Philly fast. By evening, Sal was at his bar, telling the story, and Luciano just takes it, Sal said, wipes his lip and walks out. Nobody mentioned that Lucky had survived worse, that walking away wasn't losing. Sal celebrated for 3 days. On the 4th day, his world collapsed. October 25th, 6:23 a.m. Sal Benedetto was leaving his apartment building on South Street. Same routine as every morning. Coffee at the diner 2 blocks away. Newspaper. Then to the docks by 7. He made it half a block. That's when the car pulled up beside him. Black Chrysler. Frank Costello in the passenger seat. "Get in, Sal." Sal's hand moved toward his waistband, toward the brass knuckles he always carried. 4 more men stepped out from doorways. Behind him, in front, to his sides, all armed, all ready. "Get in," Frank repeated, "or bleed on this sidewalk. Your choice." Sal got in. They drove him to a warehouse in Red Hook. Empty, abandoned, the kind of place where sound doesn't escape. Vito Genovese was waiting inside, with 5 more men, and equipment that made Sal's stomach drop. Rope, chains, a heavy bag hanging from the ceiling, and brass knuckles identical to Sal's. "Sit down, Sal," Vito said, pointed to a chair bolted to the floor. Sal sat. They tied him, wrists, ankles, chest, professional knots, escape-proof. Then they waited. For 3 hours, Sal sat in that chair. Nobody touched him. Nobody spoke. They just waited. Sal's mind cycled through scenarios. Torture, broken bones, death, every story he'd heard about what happened to men who crossed the wrong people. At 9:47 a.m., the warehouse door opened. Lucky Luciano walked in. Sal had expected rage, expected Lucky to come in swinging, expected violence. Lucky looked calm, wore a pressed suit, hands in his pockets, walked across the warehouse floor like he was strolling through Central Park. He stopped 6 feet from Sal's chair. "You know why you're here?" Lucky asked. Conversational, almost friendly. Sal said nothing. 3 days ago, you punched me in the face," Lucky continued. "Made me bleed in front of 30 witnesses. Made me look weak during a business negotiation. Your attitude started it," Sal said. His voice cracked slightly. "You disrespected Mr. Torrio. I was just what following orders." Lucky's voice was still calm. "Colder now. Or did you make that choice yourself?" Sal was quiet. "That's what I thought," Lucky said. "You chose violence, Sal, and now I'm choosing how to respond." Lucky walked closer, stood directly in front of the chair, looked down at Sal Benedetto, 6'2", 230 pounds, feared enforcer, dock killer, tied up and sweating. "Here's what's going to happen," Lucky said. "We're going to let you go, but first you're going to understand something." "What?" "That the man you punched 3 days ago isn't just some boss you can slap around. I'm the man who's going to run New York, and when you put your hands on me, you put your hands on the future." Sal's breathing was getting faster. "So you're going to kill me?" Lucky smiled. Not warm, not friendly. The smile of someone who knows something you don't. "No, Sal, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to give you a choice." "What choice?" "You can leave New York tonight, permanently. Go back to Philly. Tell Johnny Torrio you're done working for him. Family reasons, health problems. I don't care. But you leave and you never come back. Or fur." Lucky nodded to Vito. Vito walked over carrying the brass knuckles. "Or we see how tough you are when someone punches back." Sal looked at the brass knuckles, then at the heavy bag, then at Lucky's calm, patient face. "You want to fight me?" "No," Lucky said. "I want to give you the same chance you gave me, except I'm telling you it's coming. You had the advantage of surprise. Let's see how you do when it's fair." Vito started cutting the ropes. Sal stood on shaking legs. "You're serious?" "Completely," Lucky said. He took off his jacket, handed it to Frank, rolled up his sleeves. "You hit me once, you get 1 free shot back. Then we settle this. Winner walks away, loser, well, we'll see." Sal looked around the warehouse. 9 men, all watching, all waiting. "And if I refuse? Then you're not the tough guy you pretended to be 3 days ago. You're just a bully who can only hit people when they're not expecting it." Sal's face went red. "I'm not scared of you, Luciano." "Then prove it." What happened next lasted 4 minutes. Sal threw the first punch, wide, telegraphed. Lucky slipped it easily. Lucky's counter caught Sal in the ribs, fast, precise, professional. Sal swung again, harder, desperate. Lucky ducked under it. 2 quick jabs to Sal's face. Blood started flowing. For 4 minutes, Lucky Luciano gave Sal Benedetto a boxing lesson. Not wild street fighting, actual boxing, combinations, footwork, defense. Sal was bigger, stronger, had killed men with his hands, but Lucky was trained, strategic, and absolutely calm. By minute 3, Saul was bleeding from his nose, his mouth, his left eye, his knuckles were swollen, his breathing was ragged. By minute 4, Saul went down, knees hit the concrete, hands braced to keep from falling completely. Lucky stood over him, not even breathing hard. "You done?" Lucky asked. Saul nodded, couldn't speak, just nodded. "Good." Lucky walked back to where Frank held his jacket, put it on, straightened his collar. He looked at Vito. "Get him cleaned up, put him on a train to Philly, tonight." Then Lucky walked to the door, stopped, turned back. "Saul, one more thing." Saul looked up from the floor, blood dripping onto the concrete. "Next time you think about putting hands on someone, remember this. Remember that the man you hit in a restaurant knocked you down in a warehouse. And remember that I could have done worse, much worse, but I gave you a choice. Some men don't get choices." Lucky left. Saul Benedetto was on a train to Philadelphia that night. His face looked like he'd fought a heavyweight champion and lost. He never came back to New York. The story reached Johnny Torrio by afternoon, his best enforcer, the man who'd punched Lucky Luciano. Beaten in a fair fight and exiled from New York, Johnny called Lucky that evening. "I heard what happened with Saul." "Good," Lucky said. "Then you understand." "Understand what?" "That disrespect has consequences. But I don't need a war with you, Johnny. Saul made a choice. He paid for it. Now we can go back to business." Johnny was quiet for a long moment. "The partnership deal. You still interested?" "Always was." Saul's temper interrupted a good opportunity. "But the opportunity's still there if you are." "I am." They renegotiated. Same terms, better understanding. Johnny's organization stayed in Chicago. Lucky's operation expanded in New York. Clean borders, no friction, and no enforcer ever sucker-punched Lucky Luciano again. Years later, someone asked Frank Costello why Lucky fought Saul instead of just having him killed. "Because killing Saul would have started a war with Torrio," Frank said. "But beating him fair? That sent a different message. Lucky wasn't afraid, wasn't weak. He just chose when and how to respond. And by giving Saul a fighting chance even though Saul lost, Lucky showed he was honorable. Dangerous, but honorable." "Did Saul ever talk about it?" Frank smiled. "I heard he told people in Philly that Lucky was the most dangerous man he'd ever met. Not because of what Lucky did, because of how calm he was while doing it." If this story showed you what real consequences look like, hit subscribe. We're uncovering the moments when violence met strategy, when one punch meant 72 hours of planning, when walking away bloody meant coming back victorious. Turn on notifications. Lucky Luciano always waited for the right moment. Drop a comment. Would you have fought Saul or just had him killed? Lucky Luciano, 1897, 1962. The man who turned a sucker punch into a boxing lesson. The boss who walked away bleeding and came back winning. The strategist who proved patience beats anger every time. Rest in power.